chasing somebody.
What's going on? There's a shooter.
A special and emotional edition of Be Our Change, remembering we are West Texas strong.
Oh my God, he's fixing to shoot. Oh, get down.
This is a community that pulled over and stopped their cars and ran into the sound of gunshots to help us.
A mass shooting killing 7 people, injuring 25 more, including 3 law enforcement officers.
He brought so much damage, destruction, and heartbreak to this community. Why would you give him any notoriety at all? I absolutely disagree with speaking his name.
In this special show, we choose to focus on paying tribute to the victims, hearing from the loved ones of those who lost their lives, and reflecting on those last moments.
¿Por qué te hicieron esto? ¿Qué te hicieron, mijo? What did they do to you? She touched his hand, just kind of caressed his hand, and he was gone.
We also hear from the survivors and honor the long list of heroes.
We felt the arms of our community around us, during the event and after the event.
You need to express to your loved ones how much you love them and know that at any moment they can be taken.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Monica Quintero at Odessa Central Fire Station. The firefighters and paramedics here among the heroes that day. We begin with an inspiring story of a child seriously injured.
I would not have wanted to live through that tragedy in any other community, because this was a community that supported us from the second it happened.
A year later, the memories of that painful and tragic day still fresh for Kelby Davis.
This is a community that pulled over and stopped their cars and ran into the sound of gunshots to help us.
The Odessa mother takes us back. It was a typical Saturday for the Davis family. They were headed over to a friend's house. Dad Garret was driving, Mom Kelby in the passenger seat, and the twins Anderson and Rhett, who were just 17 months old at the time, were riding in rear-facing car seats. They planned to stop at Market Street on their way and hit a stoplight at 42nd Street and JBS Parkway in Odessa, when suddenly the day took an unexpected and horrible turn.
I remember just kind of ducking my head once I heard the shots. Kelby immediately jumped back to check the kids, and that's when she saw that Anderson was bleeding.
She was just covered from head to her lap, just covered in blood. And I just started screaming, she's been shot, Anderson's been shot.
I was just kind of numb to it. I was so confused.
I looked down and there were a bunch of just clean diapers on the floor, and so I just started picking diapers up and just putting them on her chest, putting them on her mouth, just trying to do whatever I could to stop the bleeding.
The Davises say they never saw the gunman, but turns out he shot a bullet through the back of their vehicle.
The shrapnel hit my daughter Anderson in the chest and then in the mouth. And when it hit her in the mouth, it just lodged in the chest wall. But when it went through her mouth, it went through her bottom lip and knocked out her teeth and burned through her tongue.
Their nightmare continued. Young Anderson in pain, crying for help. Her parents felt helpless. They tried calling 911 more than a dozen times.
Due to the panic of the city, we were never able actually to get through to 911.
But in their panic, a moment that can only be described as fate, Brad Reese and Kellen Foreman with Odessa Fire and Rescue just so happened to be at a nearby restaurant.
These 2 men, truly angels, that I truly believe God sent.
God works in mysterious ways.
Where a lot of people, and I don't blame them, I might have been one of those people, stayed in the restaurant that day when they heard gunshots. Brad and Kellen chose to run towards the gunshots when they didn't have to. They weren't on duty.
Then another hero enters the picture. Odessa Fire and Rescue Captain Jason Cotton. He stopped an ambulance who had another mass shooting victim, so little Anderson could be transported to the hospital as well.
But he just kept screaming, help the baby, help the baby. The baby needs you more than I do. The baby needs you more than I do. And
Kelby doesn't know the name of that victim, just that he wanted her baby to have priority despite his severe injuries. These parents have a long list of heroes. Heroes they say they can't thank enough.
I want people to remember all the good that our first responders and our police did that day.
Ready? I swing with you. Ready? One.
This family attributes their faith for helping them move forward, and Kelby also talked about forgiveness.
Are you strong? That shooter was once a baby. That shooter was once a little boy, and I laid there in that hospital room, and I held my little girl that night, and I pray my children grow up to know God and to love God and just be good humans. That is the number one thing I pray for my children, to grow up loving God and be a good human. But at some point along the way, that didn't happen for that little boy. He grew up to do a very, very evil thing that took people's lives and devastated families and just took so much from so many people. But anger, hate, no heart. My heart's broken for him. My heart's broken for his family.
While it's still difficult to discuss, the Davis family stresses they have so much to be thankful for. Anderson is now 2 years old.
You ready? Hang on tight. You got it?
And there's her twin brother, Rhett, who was riding next to her during this terrible ordeal. Their parents believe they were too young to remember what happened.
I'm just so proud of her because she's been a trooper through all the surgeries and everything she's gone through.
I think you should use those feelings to help spread awareness and to help spread kindness and help use your story to help others.
The Davis family is certainly doing just that. We also had a chance to talk with the 3 firefighters in Little Anderson's story, the ones they call heroes.
We all have a job to do. We love what we do. We don't think we're heroes. We just have a job to do, and we take care of people the best we can.
We went out to help people just like everybody in that area did. There were a lot of heroes that day all over Odessa and Midland, so I think we were just one of many that did what we could to help who we could.
To me, there was nothing about being heroes that day. It was just doing what we're trained to do.
Another hero, a Midland police officer injured. One of 3 law enforcement officers shot that day. Here's video of Zach Owens being released from the hospital last September. Officer Owens was shot multiple times in the arm and hand. He also received treatment on his eye. Fortunately, these days, he's back at work and also has a new canine by the name of Rex.
I've said this before, but I can't thank anybody, or everybody enough, I should say. I can't thank everybody enough. Last year was a tough year for us. This department had a dark cloud over it. It was tough. That's a tough year to bounce back from. But we gotta do it. We'll work every day as hard as we can, and we're gonna keep doing what we do. So thank everybody for all the support. I mean, this has been awesome.
Meanwhile, Midland Police Chief Seth Herman got emotional during our interview when talking with us about what he wants people to remember and reflect on 1 year later.
Things happen very rapidly, and you need to express to your loved ones how much you love them, and know that at any moment they can be taken.
As you can see, Chief Herman got candid during our interview. He stressed their focus is protecting people in our community. And now on to an emotional reunion between a victim and his rescuers. Our Jian Kim joins us now with this heartwarming story. Jian, you were a part of the reunion. What was that moment like?
It was raw, it was emotional, and it was heartfelt. A full year has passed since fate brought them together on that day, but all 3 of them tell me they never stopped searching for one another.
We were at the right place at the right time, and we were fortunate to help Effie out.
3 different fates intertwined by a shared tragedy.
Never did we ever expect that something like this would ever take place here in Midland.
Even after a full trip around the sun, for them, the sights, the sounds, simmer in their minds like it was yesterday.
There's no day that goes by that I don't think about it. What I experienced is something I will never wish for my enemy.
Efe Obayagbona recalls being en route to Monaghan's Working as an independent contractor, he drove semi-trucks for an oil field company. Then, on that Saturday afternoon, a curveball.
This side just blew up, shattered balloons and everything. Then the next thing was just bullet was just ripping into my truck.
With his left hand, he steered himself to safety, where Good Samaritans quickly came to his rescue. And among the crowd, his two heroes.
I start applying tourniquets. Victoria shows up, she's assists. He was our number one priority. You know, while I'm back there with him, he was talking about his kids. You know, he didn't want to leave. He's just like, my kids, I've got kids.
And while officers were answering their call of duty, for F.A., he'll never forget the weight of their swift response to his call for help.
I just can't appreciate them enough. You know, I wish everybody can actually see the other side of our law enforcement officers, what they do, you know.
In the months following, there was healing, there was forgiving.
I've made peace with it. I think in our profession, we have to in order to heal, and you can't hold that grudge.
But forgetting the kindness of a stranger was not an option.
You were trying to reach Effie on social media, trying to track him down, and you weren't able to. You're finally here in the same space. Anything you want to tell each other directly?
Yeah, hey, brother, I love you. I'm here for you if you need anything. You know, if you ever have a bad day, give me a call, man. I'd be more than happy to talk to you.
I'm glad we had this day, and I'm so happy to see your bright smile.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate you. Every day I pray for you guys. You guys are the hero. You guys are my hero. Thank you very much.
Now, going forward, they hope to keep in touch wherever life takes them. 3 unbreakable bonds stemming from a tragedy. An absolutely heartwarming turnaround. Reporting in Midland, I'm Jian Kim.
Great to see them reconnected. All right, thanks, Gian, for that. They're a labor of love and meant to give hope. The Midland Quilters Guild made about 60 of them for those affected by the mass shooting and first responders. The quilts were made from blocks donated by people from all over the Permian Basin and even as far away as El Paso. The Odessa Spire Ector Theater and the Wagner Noel Performing Arts Center were all lit up in yellow. Yellow was chosen to represent hope and healing. A special memorial will be placed at a popular Odessa park.
Just hearing your mom cry, just hearing your mom begging, God, please don't take my son.
We pay tribute to all of the victims who lost their lives.
When something like this happens, you take it very personally, and you do feel the weight of all the violence that happened that day.
And a little later, Odessa's police chief reflects.
Road to recovery was long, it was hard, and it was painful.
As well as an Odessa officer shot during the violence. A time to remember, we are West Texas strong. I am now at Memorial Gardens in Odessa. Plans are in the works to build a memorial right here to pay tribute to the victims. Memorial Gardens is one of the most used parks in Odessa. The executive director of Odessa Arts says something like this is critical for healing in our community.
The one thing that you really need when you're coping with a tragedy is comfort. It's hugs, it's waves, it's handshakes, and we can't do any of that either. This piece will be that hug. This piece will be that handshake. This piece will be that place where people can gather and think it's going to be okay.
Many of the victims' families are also playing a role in putting this special project together. Here's a picture of that design. It's called Bright Stars, a memorial for August 31st. Jim Sanborn was the artist chosen. 138 artists applied. Work is expected to take a year on the project. The hope to have it unveiled on the 2nd anniversary observance, August 31st of 2021. A tribute now to all of the victims who died their lives cut short. As you can imagine, their family and friends are still grieving, but they say they will always be remembered. 7 innocent victims lost their lives. The youngest of the victims murdered, 15-year-old Layla Hernandez, a sophomore at Odessa High School and a member of the basketball program. Layla had just celebrated her quinceañera a few months before the shooting. Adam Cross taught Layla Hernandez when she was in the 8th grade. He described her as well-liked by her classmates and very polite. Like many others in our community, he wanted to find a way to give back. The art teacher contacted Layla's family. Her mom gave him more than a handful of pictures.
It was a very difficult drawing to work on. Whenever you're drawing somebody that's passed away that you knew personally that was involved in a tragedy like this, there was a lot of emotion into it, you know, going into that drawing and just remembering what kind of a person she was and how sweet she was.
Cross came up with this piece of artwork. As you can see, it shows Layla in different stages of her life. He says her family got a bit teary-eyed when he gave it to them. "40-year-old Joe Griffith shot to death in front of his wife and 2 young children. Griffith worked 6 days a week to support his family and was known for his sense of humor. 35-year-old Raul Garcia lived in El Paso, a truck driver and father of 4 young children. His sister says even a year later, it's still difficult to talk about, but described him as giving.
You needed help, you wouldn't know he helped you, but he would help. He was the kind of Santa Claus, let's put it that way. He was always helping, but it was secretly, nobody knew.
She also told us about her mother's final words to her son.
¿Qué te hicieron, mijo? What did they do to you? ¿Por qué te hicieron esto? ¿Qué te hicieron, mijo? What did they do to you? That's all she would say. What did they do to you? And she touched his hand, just kind of caressed his hand, and he was gone.
Rudy Arco's family described him as an all-star dad. He leaves behind 4 children. The sad twist of fate in his story, the 57-year-old had lived in Las Vegas for 2 decades, but the 2017 mass shooting there, which left 59 people dead and more than 400 injured, prompted him to move to Odessa. "30-year-old Cameron Brown was a member of the United States Army who had served in Afghanistan.
Very patriotic person, went to war for his country.
His brother also says it is still painful a year later. He described Cameron as the funniest person in the world and says he could turn anything into a joke.
You just love who you have in your life and love them hard.
29-year-old Mary Granados, a postal carrier. The shooter hijacked her U.S. Postal Service truck during the shooting spree. Granados leaves behind a twin sister. Her friends described her as beautiful, inside and out, with a great heart.
Okay. Have a good one. Thank you.
Here's doorbell footage from a local neighborhood that captured her delivering mail just hours before her death. Edwin Peregrino was visiting his parents in Odessa when he heard gunshots outside. He ran into the yard to investigate when the shooter sped by and opened fire, killing the 25-year-old. Friends say he was a person everyone enjoyed being around.
I think we just need to remember that community spirit that we saw that day, and remember that we did gain a lot of angels that watch over Odessa.
A local tattoo shop still showing its support a year later with a special mural. The business did this as a way to honor the victims and all of those affected. The message, Texas strong, The owner of Black Hat Tattoo Company in Odessa says 4 artists collaborated on the project.
I think we should remember in this one year that, how strong of a community we are and how, close this brought everyone together.
The artist painted the mural just a couple of days after the mass shooting. As we mentioned, 3 law enforcement officers were shot. The first victim of the shooting rampage, a Texas state trooper. This is Chuck Pryor with his family. Pryor pulled over the gunman for a traffic violation and was shot in the face. Fortunately, he has made a full recovery.
To see him back at work, I think, was healing probably for him as much as for the rest of us. He's back with us, and that's inspiring to everyone.
An Odessa police officer also among those injured. Here's James Santana being released from the hospital last year. He was shot in the leg and hand. Since then, he's been promoted and is now Detective Corporal Santana.
As an officer, you come into work every day thinking, I could die today, someone might try to kill me today. You just never know. But when it actually happens, it puts a lot of things into perspective.
Odessa's police chief hopes the community focuses on the families of the victims. Chief Michael Gerke is grateful for the support law enforcement and everyone affected received then, and he says that same support even continues today.
This community comes together, and not just Odessa, but the Permian Basin comes together and wraps our arms around those in need. I believe that. I think it's a very special area. Proud to be here.
Corey Richardson has worked for the FBI for 20 years and is based in Midland. He was one of around 125 FBI personnel called to the scene. He recalls what it was like working that tragic weekend and has a message for West Texans.
I'm not going to live in fear. That doesn't mean I'm not aware or cognizant of what's going on around me. And I think a lot of people in West Texas have that same mindset of we're gonna press forward. The resiliency of the people out here, it's pretty amazing.
Generous people here in the Permian Basin and around the world united. They raised around $1.2 million for the 32 victims and their families. All of this overseen by the Odessa Community Foundation. They were able to raise the money in a fairly short amount of time, just about 3 to 4 months after the shooting.
We were so proud that we could give that money to them, and just show them that Odessa loves and cared for them. And it's what our community is all about.
A look at where the rampage finally came to an end and the Odessa police officer who took the shooter down. We are West Texas strong.
Oh my God, he's fixing to shoot. Oh, get down.
This is where the violence finally came to an end. The images of what happened gripped the nation. All of this started around 3:15 p.m., but the terror in the Permian Basin lasted about an hour. We also spoke with the Odessa police officer who took the life of the gunman. Corporal Vavao knew something had to be done, or the shooter could have murdered even more people.
It affected me, just knowing that I had to shoot somebody. I had and still do have a great support system here at the PD. A lot of people here understand what I'm going through, what I went through that day.
Why? Many have been asking that question. Authorities say the gunman had mental health issues. That's why the Davis family has been working to raise awareness regarding mental health, as well as for health care for children right here in the Basin.
You never think it's going to happen to you, but when it does, I pray we have the resources needed to take care of your baby.
Kelby Davis knows her family's story could have had a much different ending. One without little Anderson still here today.
What's your pretty smile?
I want to live in a community that can take care of young children, and I understand there's so much that goes into that.
This Odessa mother praises the doctors and nurses at Medical Center Hospital. They did everything they could to help Anderson, but she needed more.
Your baby is so sick that they need to be in an intensive care unit. The closest is Lubbock. There was like a storm around the Lubbock area. They weren't sure if they were going to go there. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to carry enough fuel to make it all the way to El Paso. We were kind of at this standstill, and then the storm cleared. We were able to put her on a helicopter without us to go to Lubbock. I'm just thankful that day and lucky that day that my child got out to a hospital.
1, 2, 3.
Woo! She and her husband have also transformed their pain into platforms for making a difference when it comes to mental health.
There's a lot to be said about mental health, and there is a stigma with mental health. And I think people are afraid to go get help. If you need help, go get the help, because it's not worth your own life, and it's not worth other people's lives.
I do pray that we're a community that can support people that are dealing with demons inside of them and dealing with evil.
Some emotional stories. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you remember we are West Texas Strong.